Good evening, folks. Nick and Prent back with week 2 of our Against the Spread picks for the week. Pretty good week 1. If you folks were following us, we went 6-2. Nick went 2-0 in NCAA action and 1-1 in the NFL, and it was flipped for me. Went 1-1 in college and went 2-0 in the NFL. Nick, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. I'm happy to hear that your Sundays went a little bit better than your Saturdays. You were kind of worried that trend was going to continue.
Yes, but even if I went 0-2 Saturday, being at game day and being at Texas Christian University was just a phenomenal day.
And it played out perfectly for you.
Frogs get the win, but they
Frogs
don't
win
cover.
and the Mountaineers covered.
Exactly. So, but seriously, folks, if any of you have the opportunity to go to a college game day event, definitely do it. It was awesome. And yeah, big Frogs guy. So let's go. So jumping right into it, Nick, I'm gonna have you lead it off this evening.
All right.
What is your first NCAA play for the week?
So I've got Alabama minus 30. I mean, coming off of the win, it's almost like a moral loss in Saban's eyes. Only winning by, 9 to A&M?
Yeah,
A&M's good.
A&M scored a late touchdown to make it, I believe, 27-19.
Yeah, something like that. So I think Saban has the expectation to just blow out teams, and especially now that this is an interesting time of year because you start to see teams actually try and blow teams out, just for the fact of making sure that they make the playoffs.
Yep.
Like those teams that are on the 4-5 area, they're going to try and blow out teams. And a team like Oklahoma State, who has one loss, now Oklahoma has one loss. Now they're going to really try and hammer down on people
because they have to.
So they have to in order to make the playoff if they want any shot at making the playoff. So I like Bama minus 30 here. They're playing Arkansas. They're at home. Arkansas is not very good this year.
Arkansas just got blown out by South Carolina.
Yeah.
South Carolina is not a bad football team, but they shouldn't be. I think Arkansas scored a late touchdown to make that closer than. I think it ended up as like a 26-point game or something like that. But it shouldn't have been that close even. And South Carolina had been struggling to score, so I don't see how they could possibly keep Alabama off the scoreboard at Alabama, especially with Alabama. If you take out A&M, they had scored 59 and then 66, and then they still put up 27 against a good A&M defense at A&M. So I can't find any fault with your pick there. Roll Tide. Especially,
it's so hard to do give the
30's a lot
points right off the bat.
Especially in a conference game.
I'm down by 30 already.
Especially in a conference game. But I said the same thing about the Vandy line, and I said the same thing about the Ole Miss line with Alabama. So they've been able to cover. And anytime Nick Saban comes out in the press and says things like, you guys talking good about us is like rat poison, Bama by 1,000,000 in those scenarios.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you saw him do the little spinaroo and I don't know what he was riding. He was riding some kind of what's like a big wheel almost, or some kind of three-wheel. You gotta look it up.
Like a
Saban just comes out of nowhere and just does a little spinaroo in a driveway. That's a Saban I've never seen before.
All right.
Saban by 1,000,000.
Gonna have to look that up. So there we go. We've got Alabama minus 30. And it's not very often we have a 30-point line, and I'm like, yep, you should definitely hammer the favorite there.
It's like the Warriors too. You sit there and you go, how can I ever play this with it being like a 27-point spread?
It's ridiculous.
Just play it. Just see what you probably would.
Just go with it. My first NCAA pick is I am going to go with the Washington State Cougars, who I believe the line has moved at this point to 14. But it's either 13 or...
Yeah, it was 13.5, so 14.
Yeah, so either way, it could be 17, and I'd still take Washington State. Cal's not very good, and I really like Mike Leach, and that team, their defense is better than people give it credit for, and their offense obviously speaks for itself. Luke Falk is kind of kind of second-tier Heisman candidate behind Saquon Barkley and Baker Mayfield. Although with Baker Mayfield losing, that kind of throws a wrench into that too. But give me the Cougs over Cal. I think this game could get ugly in a hurry.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So you had sent that pick over to me and just kind of gave me the heads up of what you were doing, and I was like, I wanted that one. That was the one. That's what I wanted. But you know what? We found my two other ones, so we're good to go. But I love this play. I'm real proud of you, Connor, for making this play.
Let's go.
But yeah, so like you said, Falk is definitely a dark horse for the Heisman. I think he's well deserved. I thought Cal would be a little bit better starting off the season, beating UNC, but now we've came to find out that UNC's not
trash
at all. Yeah.
Trash.
So yeah, I don't see how this is going to be. This is a Friday night game, by the way. I found that out too.
Yep.
So I'm excited to watch that tomorrow. But yeah, I think Washington State will control the game pretty easily. Their turnover margin's much better than Cal's is. Cal's is pretty bad. They tend to turn the ball over a little bit. So I don't see how you can justify going against Wazoo here.
The other thing about Wazoo is Mike Leach has some ironclads when it comes to play calling. In the sense of if you turn the ball over anywhere near the 50-yard line, the first play or maybe the second play, depending on what the situation is, he's going to take a shot.
Yeah, and he was the coach when Crabtree was at Texas Tech.
Yep.
Who was their quarterback? Was it
Graham Harrell?
That's it. Yep. So he's been known to sling it around. That's his game, which is interesting to see in the Pac-12 because you see it with Oregon, but every other team in that Pac-12 is. They can put up points, but it's moved towards that.
Yeah,
that
you've got teams in the Pac-12 now,
but now it's interesting to see him go from Big 12 to Pac-12.
Yeah, so a little bit about Mike Leach. I'm going to derail from the picks for a second. Mike Leach is like my favorite coach in the NCAA. His dream job, no kidding, was to teach history and coach football at Key West High School in Key West, Florida. He was the offensive coordinator at Iowa Wesleyan, Division II, went and interviewed for this job at Key West. They told him he wasn't experienced enough. So the very next year, he got hired as the offensive coordinator at the University of Kentucky and coached Tim Couch, and then followed Bob Stoops to Oklahoma, and then got the head job at Texas Tech from there, and then went to Wazoo. So,
and he had a little hiccup though in between
that's a whole thing, and we're not going to get into that because I think Craig James is a tool, but we won't get into that. The guy can coach him up clearly, but it's just funny to me thinking Mike Leach is probably he's definitely in the top tier of coaches as far as his schemes and everything, and he gets a lot out of his players that, maybe other folks wouldn't. He made Texas Tech relevant again. He's made Washington State relevant again after long stretches of being nothing, and he's been able to kind of make them relevant. It's just funny to me to think about Mike Leach being a high school football coach and a history teacher because he said last week, he was like, yeah, if I'd got that job, I'd still be there. So that's kind of a funny thing to think about. But anyway, getting back on track here. I'm for sure on the Cougs. What's your second pick for the weekend?
My second pick is we've got Georgia Tech plus 5.5. I'm big on them. I just think that they're going to control I think this is the U's letdown game. I think this is it. Everyone thought so. Wazoo had a chance for the letdown game last week. Didn't happen whatsoever. Miami. Everyone thought that could have been the week, but they showed signs that they were just not going to lose that game. That was maybe the game of the weekend, by the way, the U. But I think Georgia Tech this is the letdown game for Georgia Tech, or for Miami. Georgia Tech will cover. Miami also just lost their starting running back for the entire season.
Yep.
Wallen. So I think this is the game. Yeah, this is the game where there's going to be a lot of questions. So I don't think that Miami will answer. Playing Georgia Tech and a team that can control the tempo that's tough to do that after the guy that controls the tempo for your team goes down for the season.
Yeah. I don't hate that pick. I don't necessarily agree with it. Only because I know Miami just won an emotional game against their biggest rival, and so obviously always the next week it's an upset alert situation, no matter who you're playing. When you couple the fact that okay, now you're playing Georgia Tech with a triple option, who by the way, I don't know if you've got to watch Georgia Tech this year. Their quarterback is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like, what are they? I think they out average the teams they play. Like it's like 350 to 130.
Yeah.
In terms of running the ball, and he accounts for like 130 or 140 a game.
But he can sling it a little bit too now. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not their normal guy that can just runs it, and then if the guy's wide open, he can hit him. He actually can throw it a little bit. I got to watch him against. I watched their game against Tennessee and against North Carolina, and he can play, man. I think last year Miami went to Georgia Tech and pounded them.
Well, Georgia Tech. I don't know if you saw Georgia Tech's quarterback last year. He was
great.
like 5'3".
Yes. Now, so I was going to say, not that last year has much to do with this year at all, but now it's at Miami. Miami's defense last year held Georgia Tech to, I think, 20 points. Miami's defense is better this year than it was last year. Georgia Tech's offense is better too. Miami has Malik Rozier has been playing good.
Yeah, he was phenomenal in that game last week.
So
he was incredible. That throw at the end was great.
I think this is going to be a close game. I think the Canes win. And so, with that being said, I mean, I don't mind if you can catch 5.5 or 6 points in this game. I don't necessarily mind taking the points. But I do think the Canes are going to win this game, which gives me a little bit of pause to take the underdog. Usually, if I'm going to take a dog, I want to know that they can win outright, unless it's a huge dog. So that would be the only thing that gives me pause. Definitely don't hate the pick. I just don't know if that's one that I would fully back on like I would with Alabama.
I think it's just the injury and the fact that I don't see this being the Canes' year. Although I love the turnover chain.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The U is getting their swagger back a little now.
They are. They're getting their swagger back a little bit.
Mark Richt, who played there, Mark Richt is having a lot of fun coaching them. They're doing a good job recruiting. I think the future's bright in Coral Gables for sure.
I'm a big Mark Richt fan. I've always liked Georgia. Georgia's been, if I had to pick an SEC team, Georgia would be my team. I always liked what he did there, and I kind of like how Georgia's continuing that. Not to get sidetracked or anything, but yeah, I like what he's doing with Miami too. I mean, it kind of ruins it when that Miami-Florida State rivalry doesn't really mean much.
Right.
So it's good to see that coming back a little bit.
For sure. I'm going to give a little twofer right here for my second pick because I can't decide which one to go with. We've got South Carolina at Tennessee getting 2.5 at last check. The Volunteer season can be summed up best by calling it an absolute disaster. They almost lost to freaking UMass at home. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the UMass football program. They haven't won a football game since the War of 1812, for God's sakes. I mean, it is bad. It is not good. And they almost beat Tennessee at Tennessee. Then the next week, Georgia comes to town, so you're figuring Tennessee's got to be fired up to play Georgia, right? They came off a tough loss, or a win that felt like a loss, honestly. They're playing Georgia, huge game. They get blown out 41-0. And now you've got South Carolina coming to town, who, again, is not a great football team, but my goodness.
A competent one.
Yeah, they can at least, do things, and Tennessee is bad. Dormady playing quarterback, I don't know if I'd have him quarterback in my high school squad, honestly. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. It is
I don't know
great.
how they haven't fired Butch Jones.
Yeah, well, the thing is they've won the championship of life this year, and I don't know if you saw it this week. They had a bye week this week, and they asked him. They said, "Hey, Butch, how was the bye week?" He goes, "Well, this is the best bye week we've ever had." And I'm like, okay, that's not that outlandish of a statement. And then they said, "Well, Butch, like you said, it was a great week, but you didn't practice at full strength any part of the week because you had people rehabbing and things like that. And he said, well, they might not have got a lot of reps on the field, but they got a lot of leadership reps this week. And I'm just looking at like, Butch, buddy, you're in an SEC school who the expectation was you were going to contend for SEC East titles and be in SEC championship games and the whole deal. And now we've resorted to, well, we're the champions of life and we got a lot of leadership reps. Well, that's not going to win football.
That's not what schools are looking for if you're an SEC coach.
So South Carolina is one play. They're getting 2.5. I think they'll probably win that game. The other play on my mind is NC State minus 11 at last check against Pittsburgh. You want to talk about another team that is incompetent offensively? Pittsburgh's pretty bad. NC State has been better than people want to give them credit for. They had a bad loss against South Carolina, actually, the first week of the year where they outgained them almost double. They almost doubled South Carolina up in yards, but lost. And they've run the table since, beat Louisville last week. And I just think they roll against Pitt this week. So I'd say NC State's going to be my lock. I'll lock in NC State for the fourth one, but throw South Carolina if you want to make a little extra money.
So shout out to Dave Hart, listener of the show.
Dave Hart,
Dave
guy.
Hart. He texted me.
Big cute guy, Dave Hart.
Yeah, he's a cute guy. He texted me about the NC State game and asked me what it was, and I was like, I hate Louisville. I think they are so bad. I think they're so overrated, all because of Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
They haven't really won a game since, had real good win since, who did they get? They got blown out to Houston last year at the end of the year.
But then they pounded Florida State last year.
True. Yeah, that was early on in the season.
Yeah, but they still pounded them.
But they haven't really won a game since. My point is that I just think that Lamar Jackson
I totally agree. I just wanted to
just overrated. Just causes that team to be overrated.
I agree.
And I just said, yeah, NC State's defense is so good that I just think that they'll be able to contain him. And they put up points last week too. So I would go for the NC State if you had to ask me. I would go NC State against Pitt.
Bradley Chubb,
rather than the South Carolina game.
Bradley Chubb is going to be the best player to come out, the best non-quarterback to come out of this draft. Lineman for NC State. He is an animal.
Their D-line is almost as good as, I don't know if I want to say as good as Clemson's or Clemson's D, but...
Well, the thing is the difference is the depth. The NC State's front four, I'd put against anybody in the country.
Yeah.
But, however, Clemson and Alabama have another four that's just as good as their first four. So that's where it comes into play. But Bradley Chubb and his line mates, the front line, I'd put them against anybody. They're very good. So, yeah, let's lock in NC State, but we gave you an extra one there with South Carolina. But we're not going to count that against the numbers. We'll take NC.
I will also give a kind of a freebie out there.
Let's go. We've got two freebies.
Just some knowledge.
Love that.
Just stay away from Georgia. That 30 points, they've just been raising the bar. I know Georgia's been winning by 40 points the last couple weeks, but please, just stay away from that game altogether.
Yeah.
It's a trap. That's a trap of the week.
The thing about Georgia's going to win that game.
Special, that it's a trap of the week.
Georgia's going to win that game by multiple touchdowns, probably 2 or 3 touchdowns, but 30 is a lot, especially against an offense that, Missouri's offense isn't horrible. They're 40s, or 30's a lot of points. I agree with that. Stay the hell away from that.
I can totally see them winning by 4 touchdowns, but 30 points is just so much to me. They're not on Alabama's level yet.
I agree.
Not yet.
I agree. So there's your picks for college. We've got NC State, Washington State. Who did you pick?
I picked Bama and Georgia Tech.
Bama and Georgia Tech. Right. So Bama, Georgia Tech, Washington State, and NC State. That's your free money for the NCAA football weekend. Going to the NFL. Last week, I went 2-0, which is a miraculous experience. Both of them were real close, though. I don't know if you got a chance to watch either one of those.
Oh, I watched both of them. I was driving back actually during the Green Bay game, but I saw the beginning, saw them down, and then I saw like the last drive. So it was kind of a good timing for me.
Yeah. So, in spirit of last week, we're gonna stick with the Green Bay Packers.
Big cheesehead.
Big Packers guy. They are laying 3 against the Vikings. Who knows if Sam Bradford's going to play? He tried
I don't
to play.
think he will. There's no reason to bring him back after seeing what he did after 4 weeks.
Brutal. And Case Keenum.
3 weeks.
Case Keenum, by the way, actually wasn't bad. Like he was.
He was. I mean, he was playing against the Bears, but I mean, he still did all right. He still held his own and got the win. So you can't fault him there.
Speaking of the Bears-Vikings game, last week on this show, I said I took the Titans against the Dolphins in the Survivor pool.
Yeah.
Well, when Mariota was revealed to be out, I switched my pick, and I had
I was gonna say didn't come
wasn't good.
Later.
I had the Vikings, so we're still good in the Survivor pool. We started.
It was funny. That game was 3-2. In the first half,
it was halftime.
Pretty late in the first half, and I took a picture and Snapchatted it and said I didn't know the Twins and White Sox were playing this late in the season.
Brutal, but so we're still in it. That pool started with 6,000 people, and we're down to 500, and your boy's still in it. So just wanted to toss that out there. For all you guys who thought I was an idiot for taking Tennessee, I didn't actually take Tennessee, so get off me. But yeah, we're gonna go.
I still thought you were an idiot for taking Tennessee.
That's fine. I didn't take them. I didn't take them, so you can't think I'm an idiot because I didn't take them. This is another tough week for that, by the way, and I haven't made my pick yet, but we'll get into that at some other point. I'm thinking probably Atlanta this week, but Green Bay -3. Aaron Rodgers is really good at football. The Vikings are pretty good at football on defense, but I'll take Aaron Rodgers to win by at least a touchdown against Case Keenum. That's pretty much all the analysis I have on that one.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially with no Dalvin Cook. I mean, they looked fine against the Bears, but
that's the Bears.
I don't know. Yeah, McKinnon looked solid.
He did look good. But they ain't playing Mitchell Trubisky this week.
That is true. Mitchell the Mitchell is not. The one touchdown he scored was the biggest joke of a first career NFL touchdown I've ever seen.
Looks like
just a pass that should have been right into the guy's hands. The defense, the safety.
But hey, looks like a well thrown ball in the scorebooks.
Yeah, there's no pictures on the stat sheet.
The 2-point conversion play was something though.
Yes, that was the best 2-point conversion I've ever seen.
That was a great.
So it went from the worst touchdown, one of the worst touchdown passes, to the best 2-point conversions. That was one of the coolest plays I've ever seen.
It was really cool. I've never seen that.
So it went from
they did like a zone read, but handed it off,
and
then he handed it to the tight end.
Yep.
And then the tight end flipped it back to Trubisky.
He pitched it to Trubisky, who was just calmly just waiting there.
Which, by the way, you could even take that a step further, and the guy who handed it off to the guy who pitched it to Trubisky could run a wheel. There's a lot of wrinkles you can do off of that. I'm just saying, that's probably not the last time we'll see that little wrinkle from the Bears.
The thing that's funny, though, is that they used that on a 2-point conversion. Trubisky could have ran forever on that play.
I know.
That could have been a 40-yard gain. But they did run a fake punt, too.
Yep, for a touchdown.
For a first down on 4th down.
For a touchdown.
Yeah. They threw, did he throw the touchdown before Trubisky did?
Yes, because Trubisky's was to tie it.
A lot of weird stats in that game.
Yeah.
So the punter probably threw his first touchdown before Mitch Trubisky, and they were both playing the same game.
My boy Pat McAfee loved the fake punt. Good for the brand, he says.
He stayed so calm and just threw just a nice, easy ball. I mean, if he tried to put some oomph into it, I bet he would have sailed him by 20 yards.
Probably, but weird game. But the Vikings came out alive, so I'm still in the Survivor pool, and then I will take the Packers -3 against the Vikings this week. Who you got?
I'm rooting for you in that.
Love
that Eliminator challenge, because I'm not in it this year. I'm not in a Survivor pool this year. I decided to go against it, but I'm rooting for you.
My dad had Pittsburgh in his. How'd that go?
Not so great. That was my one loss of the week last week.
Yep.
Again, what are you gonna do when
you can't force
Ben
a Hall of
Roethlisberger
Fame
throws
throwing
5 picks? You don't see that every day, so I can't. I don't have any excuses for it. It just happened.
Yep, that's the way she goes. Who you got this week?
I've got the Lions plus 5.5. I think coming off that tough loss at home to Carolina, I think they'll bounce back. I think 5.5 is very generous to a Saints team. And they did just lose. Not that Adrian Peterson was doing much, but they did just trade him away. So that kind of takes. I don't know if that could make them better. Who knows? That could make them better now that there's not really a distraction there, and it's just Ingram and Kamara. But I think 5.5 is way too much, especially for an NFL game with the better team. I think getting 5.5.
I agree. I actually really like the Lions. I'm a big Matthew Stafford guy. Trivia question about Matthew Stafford. Do you know who his center was in high school?
Oh, it wasn't. Was it Clayton Kershaw?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Stafford was Kershaw's catcher in baseball.
Yeah.
So that's a great little tidbit there. And they're from right here in beautiful Dallas, Texas. So let's go. But yeah, I think they win this game outright. And in any game that they're going to win outright and they're going to give you free points, take them. So I can't find any fault with that pick. I'm not a believer in the Saints, to be honest with you.
No.
Especially defensively. They do get Willie Snead back this week on offense.
Does that really make a difference? I feel like just in a Saints offense, it doesn't really matter. I feel like they just roll out. It's almost like their wide receivers are very similar to Patriots wide receivers. They just roll out wide receiver after wide receiver, and they'll produce when they need to produce, but they won't put up huge numbers unless you bring in a Moss. Cooks did, but you know what I mean. They can roll out a bunch of different receivers.
Yeah, for sure.
At any time.
But yeah, I completely back you there with the Lions. I think they win that game outright. So definitely take the points there. My second pick is a little Thursday night football action, which I generally stay away from.
Color rush season.
But I think the Eagles are legit. The Panthers have been playing well, but I'm not so sure that they're the most legit team out there. Give me the Eagles plus 2.5 against the Panthers. Again, I think I'm not so sure this game stays within a touchdown. I think the Eagles are really good, and I'm not a huge believer in the Panthers' defense, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, this concerns me. This is one I would definitely stay away from. After seeing Newton kind of be able to sling it now, he didn't really have. The season started off rough for him, coming off that shoulder surgery. Now he's out here. Actually, he's got zip on the ball now.
Yep.
And everyone on his team has been saying it, and that's scary because when that dude gets rolling,
sure.
There's no one that throws him more. I think he throws probably one of the better balls, just a straight shot, no touch on it, but he throws the best fastball.
Well, yeah, he's got a cannon.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fault anybody for staying away from this game, but I think that, again, this is one of those ones I think the Eagles are going to win this game outright. If you look at the lines this week, there's not a lot of great lines.
No.
There's not a lot of games that I'm like, yeah, you have to play that.
Yeah.
And so in a game that I think the dog's going to win outright, just give me the points. You know what I mean? That's a little bit of rationale behind it. But again, there's some kind of screwy lines this week that I'm not really crazy about. The Patriots are laying 9.5. The Falcons are laying 11.
We'll get into that Pats play a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit in about 20, 40 seconds.
Yeah. So, that's my rationale behind going with the Eagles. Bold, hot take alert. Give me the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl or to win the Super Bowl?
In it.
Okay. Interesting.
Hot take.
The NFC is always up for grabs.
That's my hot take for the day.
Again, I can't say you're wrong. I don't really know who in the NFC is going to really take command.
There's nobody that's going to run away with it.
It's all AFC teams.
You're gonna have people say the Seahawks. You're gonna have people say the Packers. Okay, because they have Aaron Rodgers. Sure, they're a favorite to win it every goddamn year. People are gonna.
But their defense always lets them down.
There are probably going to be people who say the Cowboys. I don't know if you've watched the Cowboys game this year. I think you and I could go run some routes and complete it against the Cowboys. I just don't. There's not a clear favorite in the NFC, and I love Carson Wentz. So, Eagles in the Super Bowl. Let's go.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy, I wouldn't mind seeing that happen. That'd be kind of a cool play. It blows my mind that Doug Peterson would be coaching a Super Bowl team, though.
Dude, I don't know where you land on this. I hate the head coaches that wear a visor. I hate the visor look.
And like guys that do weird things. Like McAfee's hairstyle was so bad last year, and it was perfect. It was perfect for him. Now he's doing this slick back hair thing. Stick with one thing that worked. You were fine then. Now you're slicking back your hair, and you're 0-6. Look what happens.
Exactly. The last and final pick of the day.
So you mentioned that pass line being 9.5. I like it at 9.5. Gets up to 10. I'm gonna probably stay away from it.
Yep. So
9.5. Pats at 9.5.
So what you're saying is lock it in now.
Lock it in now. Yeah, if you can get it now. And I've learned to do that too. Don't wait till the day. If you see a line, don't wait till the day. Play it right then and there. But yeah, I think that they're coming off of an extra 3 days of rest. They didn't really travel through any time zones. I just think that that's too much against the Jets, who, I mean, they keep winning, but I just still don't think they're good. Like, I think anyone can agree with me there. I think the Pats haven't really played against the AFC East very well against the spread, not in general, but against the spread. I think I saw something like against the spread they're like second in the past 4 years. Over the past 4 years, they're second against the spread against the whole league, but they're like 22nd against their division.
Well, yeah, if you think about it, at Miami always covers.
Mm-hmm.
At New York, generally the Jets cover. And then the Bills are a little bit of a wild card. Like, who the hell knows what you're getting with Bills Mafia? But, I mean, when you look at it, the Jets generally play pretty well against the Patriots at home. Obviously, this is the Jets Super Bowl. So, that to me is always a little bit of a concern too, right? Like, you have an NFL team that's like, oh my God, if we can win this, maybe it springboards us to a playoff. Like, let's relax. Josh McCown's still your quarterback, but, I mean...
And I think Bilal Powell is pretty doubtful, questionable.
Yeah, right now, on fantasy, he's listed as questionable, but he's projected for 0 points, which generally isn't good.
Well, and, old running backs somehow tend to have a really good way against the Patriots. Fred Jackson always tore us apart.
Yep.
But so here's why I like the Pats so much, though. They usually go into these divisional games. I mean, obviously they've lost their games at the beginning of the season against their AFC East, but they usually enter these games where they get like a big spread or bigger spread, and they usually aren't concerned about anything. They're not panicking. But now we're pretty much in panic mode in terms of the Patriots season. 3-2, and your defense hasn't shown anything. Yeah, I mean, they played well last week, but really haven't shown that they can keep that up the whole season.
Well, they did play well against Tampa.
That's what. They played well against them, but
and I thought that was going to be a tough matchup for them.
Agreed, and I also thought that the Pats would put up more points, and both teams would, but it's just one of those games.
Again,
that's Thursday night special, man. That's Thursday night prime time with Lydia.
And again, there's a reason that we're sitting here recording a podcast and we're not doing something professionally.
Correct.
But yeah, I think you're spot on with if it gets to 10, maybe stay away from it.
I just think the Pats are in a different spot this year. Like
they need this bad.
They need this. If they lose this,
If they
really
lose this, it's
time.
panic mode. Like, full-on, sound the alarm, holy shit, we're in trouble.
I mean, yeah, people are already, I'm not in panic mode yet.
Either.
I don't think. Not realistic panic mode, but if you lose this week, you gotta be in panic mode.
I'm in panic mode in the sense of, they might win 11 instead of 12.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, when Castle was playing, they won 11 and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but my point is, I don't have any worry about them not winning the division.
Yeah,
I like it. But if you lose this game, then it's like, now we're 6 weeks in and you're still not leading the division.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? One thing to keep, Brady showed up on the injury report yesterday, didn't practice with the AC joint. He's going to play. But, like, keep an eye on that because he has been taking a beating back there.
I mean, this man, they changed the rule because of this man. Because of him being on the injury report. The probable. How he was listed as probable for how many seasons in a row?
It was literally, like, something like 50 straight games or something like that.
Yeah, with a sore right shoulder or something like that.
Yeah, but this is different. This is
a left shoulder.
Left shoulder, AC joint, and he actually literally didn't practice yesterday.
Yeah.
He was back today. Also,
he's good. He's fine.
Interesting little side note. Rob Gronkowski practiced all week last week. Shows up on Wednesday and they put him on the injury report with a groin and then doesn't play, but now he's back ready to play this week. That's a classic, we want to rest him this week.
Yeah.
So let's make sure he pulls his groin.
Yeah.
And do that. So Gronk's back, which will be huge, obviously. And yeah, I mean, if you can get this line under 10, I'd go with it too. So,
yeah.
Pretty remarkable.
Again, like you said, there wasn't too many lines that stood out to me, and it was tough to find. I saw the Lions line, and I hopped all over that. But
yep.
Pats -9.5 was the next best thing for me. So.
Yep. Also, it's pretty remarkable. We've done 16 picks now over the last 2 weeks. And there's only been a couple that were like, I absolutely would not play that.
Yeah.
And last week we go 6-2. Hopefully we can either match that or better it this week. And we'll keep going. But it's pretty interesting. Folks, we text occasionally about, our lines and our picks and everything. But these first two are the first time we've ever really discussed it in an open forum like this. And it seems like we actually agree a lot of the time, which is pretty good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
go. I mean, which one did I wasn't big on the SMU one last week.
And that's the one that lost.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure about the Colts. I was a little on the fence about the Colts, but...
And then the one that I wasn't sure with you was the Jags and the Steelers.
The thing I forgot, though, about the Colts is that I'm big on time zones now. I don't know why, but I read some report or article about time zones, and it's crazy. Like, the NBA, there's like a science to it where you can pick literally... There's like 6 or 7 games where you can pick if a team is like on a 2 days rest or something like that, or played a certain amount of games during the week and then travel 3 different time zones. They like lose every single time. Like even the Warriors, like you can basically bet against them and they'll probably lose that game.
Yep.
Something interesting to look at. Keep an eye on time zones. So the San Fran traveled 3 time zones, lost, didn't cover. So, another one for you right there.
Jacoby Brissett's the guy, though.
He is.
He had a couple...
And I traded away T.Y. at the beginning of the year because I didn't know who was going to throw to him. And now it looks like he's got somebody to throw to him. So,
yep.
Good for him. Happy for him.
So there
Not
we go.
a waste of talent.
So we've got NFL picks. We've got Eagles, Packers, Pats, Lions. I remember those ones. Let's go. That's all we got for you this week. We went 6-2 last week. Hopefully we can match it or better it this week. Little bit of a logistical deal. I've been posting it just on Facebook or whatnot. These will now be posted on a new website called A View from the Pressbox. So that's where these will be posted. So we're going to share it on Facebook still like we did, but it's just going to redirect you to that website, which is something I just put together. So that's just the logistics there. Nick, really appreciate your time here, and we'll do it again next week. So good luck. And I'm sure we'll be texting about the games this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Good luck to you as well, and let's keep this train rolling.
Got to keep the momentum going. So for all of you that are listening, those are your locks for the week, and hopefully we all make some free money this weekend. So have a good night. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk to you again next week.